Speaks Sports. Please check him out here on YouTube, talking Auburn football in particular, but also the span of the SEC as he looks at the entire conference. And of course, this is almost the unofficial start of the football season as we break into media days, not just for the SEC, but the rest of the Power Five for the rest of the week. And you can catch us here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, for complete breakdowns on as many teams as we can possibly get to with the help of guys like Vernon here. Florida's almost the Eastern Division comparable team to LSU. Alabama's the standard. LSU appears to be the team that has the best chance. Texas A&M, many people like what they're doing under Jimbo Fisher, but LSU seems to be the team that would be the most likely to knock off Alabama. Georgia is the predominant favorite in the SEC Eastern Division, but if there's going to be a team that's most likely to pull off the upset and elevate themselves to first place, that would be Florida. And of course, the Gators took the podium with Dan Mullen and company on Monday as well. So what did you take from Coach Mullen and the rest of the team?
Coach Mullen is very excited about, the potential outcome of Florida. He does understand the challenges that lie ahead. He talked a lot about, the challenges of facing Georgia, but he's very excited about hitting the field this year, and especially with the squad that he has coming back. More notably, I actually did on my channel a review on LaMichael Pirine, who is a running back from Alabama, Theodore, Alabama. And ironically, during his process, he made mention that Auburn thought that he was slow, that he wasn't, fit to compete as an Auburn Tiger. So he kind of put that on there as somewhat of, I guess you could say locker room chatter. But at the same time, he's very excited as well. I like LaMichael Pirine because he not only can run the football with a high level of effectiveness, but one thing you got to look at in a Dan Mullen run offense is the running back's ability to catch the football out of the backfield. And LaMichael Pirine does an excellent job of doing that and helping to diversify Florida's offense. They're definitely in a good position to make some quote unquote noise in the SEC East. They start out obviously against Miami, a game that will serve as somewhat of a test to where they are. Then, you talk about a little competition along the way, headed down as Auburn heads down to Gainesville to take on Florida. That's going to be a very interesting matchup. I think that game is October the 19th and will be a very pivotal game in the stretch as we start to define where teams will be going into the November stretch for SEC football.
Anybody watching this video that's a bit interested in the comments that LaMichael Pirine made about the Florida fan base, please check out our video with Jackie Franchuli from Rivals, because she basically puts it into context, because they're some of the more shocking statements I've ever heard come from a player, maybe the most shocking statements in watching and covering firsthand SEC and other conference media days, where he basically said Florida fans are bipolar.
Yeah.
When we lose, the equipment manager, the kickers, the coaches, they trash everybody. They're bipolar. She did a nice job of basically balancing that out to a certain extent, because she was right there when he made the comments, and she knew exactly what was stated to gain that type of response. And she sets up the stage. So anybody watching that video, check out our conversation with Jackie concerning LaMichael Pirine, because as soon as I saw those statements, I was like, I have never heard a player during all these media days call out the fans like LaMichael Pirine did. So I don't know if you heard those in particular.
Sad thing is, he's actually somewhat, as far as the fan bases go, I'm obviously an Auburn fan, an Auburn analyst, a Auburn alumnus. And that bipolar nature of the fans is, can be somewhat profound. You go from hating Gus one week to actually loving Gus when he beats Georgia and Alabama in November. Then now I'll say this: Gus Malzahn doesn't help the bipolar cause, because if you think about, say, the 2019 season, you beat Georgia, number one, you beat Alabama, number one, in November. Then, okay, all right, you lose the game against Georgia. It's hard to beat a team, in a rematch standpoint in that, length of time. But you get right back on the hot seat by you losing to a UCF team who is doing their best to lobby for why they should be in the college football playoff. And then Auburn has already just ran through the SEC on their way, basically, obviously losing to Georgia, but on their way to UCF, and then you lose to UCF, and then you kind of sort of solidify their argument as to why they should be considered in the college football playoff. So guess what? Now the Auburn fan base kind of sort of is on this "I hate Gus" thing when you loved them just a month ago, and that's just the nature of SEC and college football sports, is that it's such an emotional game to where you have experienced very high highs and very very low lows. There's very few fans or people who closely follow programs who can maintain that center of balance as it relates to their teams.